Oh, this once and people will never see you the same. Introduction. There comes a moment in every life when comfort becomes a cage, when excuses sound reasonable, when potential sleeps quietly beneath routine. Most people never leave that place, and that is exactly why doing one thing just once can change how the world sees you forever. This is not about proving others wrong. This is about finally proving yourself right. Most people talk, very few act, and almost no one acts consistently when it becomes difficult. The world is trained to recognize patterns. If you are always late, they expect lateness. If you quit when it hurts, they expect quitting. If you complain instead of training, they expect weakness. But the opposite is also true. The moment you do what you said you would do, especially when no one is watching, you rewrite your identity. Discipline is louder than talent, silence is stronger than explanation, and self-mastery is more intimidating than any display of power. Do this once. Wake up early when your mind begs for rest. Train when your body wants comfort. Hold your word when breaking it would be easier. Stay calm when chaos invites reaction. Finish what you start when quitting would be applauded. Not once for applause, not once for validation, once to show yourself that you are not ruled by mood, fear, or laziness, because the moment you master yourself, something shifts. People feel it before they do it. With focus, do it with discipline, do it without excuses, do it once and mean it, because that single decision can become the line that separates who you were from who you are becoming. Act now, train your mind, master yourself, and watch the world respond. Most people talk about change as if words themselves carry weight. They announce intentions, describe future victories, and repeat plans until the sound of their own voice convinces them they are moving forward. But motion is not progress, noise is not power. Talking creates the illusion of action while keeping the body still and the mind comfortable. This is why so many remain exactly where they started, year after year, surrounded by unfinished ideas and unused potential. Action is rare because action demands sacrifice. The moment you move from words to execution, excuses lose their protection. You can no longer hide behind motivation or timing. Action exposes who you really are. It shows whether your discipline is real or borrowed, whether your confidence is trained or imagined. That exposure is uncomfortable, and comfort is the addiction that keeps most people average. The difference between those who are respected and those who are ignored is not intelligence, opportunity, or luck. It is the willingness to act when acting costs something. To act when there is resistance, to act when results are not immediate, to act when failure is possible and embarrassment is guaranteed. This is where most stop, not because they cannot continue, but because continuing would force them to confront their limits. Action rewires identity. Every time you do what you said you would do, you send a signal to your nervous system that you are reliable. Every time you delay, negotiate, or quit, you train yourself to distrust your own word. Over time, this becomes visible. Your posture changes, your voice changes, your presence changes. Others may not know why, but they sense it immediately. Those who act do not waste energy explaining themselves. They conserve their strength for execution. They understand that consistency is more impressive than intensity. One decisive step repeated daily carries more force than bursts of enthusiasm followed by silence. Action is quiet, but it echoes. It accumulates. It builds momentum that cannot be faked. When you act without announcing it, you separate yourself from the crowd. When you act without needing recognition, you gain leverage over your own mind. You stop seeking permission. You stop waiting for perfect conditions. You stop asking if you are ready. Readiness is built through movement, not contemplation. The world responds differently to those who act because action removes uncertainty. It shows reliability. It shows restraint. It shows self-command. People trust those who move with intention because intention backed by action is rare, and rarity commands attention whether it wants to or not. To act once when it is difficult is to challenge the version of yourself that has survived on comfort. To act again is to weaken that version. With repetition, action stops being an effort and becomes a standard. The mind adapts, resistance fades, discipline becomes normal, and without ever saying a word, you begin to stand apart from those who are still talking. Consistency is not dramatic, it does not create instant transformation, and it rarely earns praise in the beginning. That is why most people abandon it. They mistake intensity for progress and emotion for commitment. They wait to feel ready, inspired, or confident before showing up. But consistency does not care about feelings. It requires obedience to a decision long after the excitement has faded. The mind constantly searches for novelty. It wants change without repetition, results without routine, growth without discomfort. Consistency denies the mind this luxury. It forces you to repeat the same disciplined actions, even when they feel boring, even when they feel pointless, even when nothing seems to be changing. This is where true separation happens, not in moments of motivation, but in moments of monotony. Every repeated action is a vote for the person you are becoming. When you show up again after yesterday's effort, you reinforce identity. When you show up again after failure, you build resilience. When you show up again without reward, you build independence from validation. Over time, this repetition reshapes your internal standards. What once felt difficult becomes normal. What once felt impossible becomes expected. Most people underestimate how powerful small actions become when they are chained together. One disciplined choice seems insignificant, 10 feel manageable, 100 change your posture, 1,000 change your reputation. Consistency compounds quietly. While others look for shortcuts, consistent effort builds a foundation that cannot be shaken by setbacks or criticism. Consistency also removes decision fatigue. When your actions are governed by principle rather than mood, you conserve mental energy. You stop negotiating with yourself. You stop asking whether you should train, focus, or improve. The decision has already been made. This clarity sharpens the mind and strengthens trust. You begin to move with certainty, not urgency. Those who lack consistency often appear busy but produce little. They jump from method to method, searching for the easiest path. Those who are consistent appear calm but move forward steadily. They understand that mastery is not built through variety but through repetition. Doing the same thing well again and again creates depth. Depth creates authority. Consistency also reveals character. Anyone can perform when conditions are ideal. Few can perform when conditions are ordinary. Fewer still can perform when conditions are unfavorable. Repeating disciplined behavior under pressure exposes mental strength. It shows whether your standards are situational or absolute. Over time, consistency becomes visible without explanation. Your body reflects it. Your work reflects it. Your presence reflects it. People begin to associate you with reliability, not because you claimed it, but because your actions confirmed it repeatedly. You no longer need to announce goals or defend progress. Your routine speaks for you. When consistency becomes non-negotiable, confidence stops being emotional and becomes structural. It is built on evidence, not belief. Each completed repetition reinforces the understanding that you can be trusted with responsibility, effort, and challenge. This internal alignment changes how you carry yourself, how you respond to pressure, how you endure silence and struggle without complaint. Self-mastery begins where reaction ends. Most people are controlled by impulse, emotion, and external pressure. They react before they think, speak before they understand, and move before they choose. This creates a life directed by circumstance instead of intention. The person who cannot govern their internal state will always be governed by the external world. The mind is constantly producing noise. Thoughts arise without invitation. Emotions fluctuate without warning. Desires demand immediate satisfaction. Without control, these forces dictate behavior. Self-mastery is not about suppressing them, but about observing them without obedience. The moment you create space between stimulus and response, you reclaim authority over yourself. Reaction feels natural because it is automatic. Anger seeks expression, fear seeks avoidance, pride seeks defense, but every reaction strengthens the habit of unconscious behavior. Over time, this erodes discipline. You become predictable. Others learn which buttons to press. Circumstances learn how to move you. Calm becomes rare because the mind is always in motion. Those who practice self-mastery move differently. They pause where others rush. They listen where others interrupt. They remain still where others explode. This restraint is not weakness. It is strength under control. It signals confidence without display and power without aggression. People sense it immediately because it disrupts expectation. Silence becomes a tool. Instead of filling space with explanation, you allow discomfort to exist. Instead of defending your position, you let actions speak. This unsettles those who rely on emotional reactions to gain control. When you do not react, you remove their leverage. When you remain calm, you dominate the moment without force. Self-mastery also means controlling the body. Posture, breath, and movement influence the mind. A restless body creates a restless mind. Controlled breathing steadies thought. Stillness sharpens awareness. Physical discipline reinforces mental discipline. When the body obeys command, the mind follows. The greatest test of self-mastery appears under pressure. Fatigue, criticism, failure, and provocation reveal the truth. Anyone can remain composed when things go well. Few can do so when challenged. Each moment of restraint under pressure strengthens internal authority. Each moment of reaction weakens it. Over time, self-mastery transforms identity. You stop being driven by approval or avoidance. You stop chasing stimulation. You become selective with energy, attention, and emotion. This selectivity creates presence. Presence creates influence. Influence creates respect without demand. Those who lack self-mastery seek control over others. Those who possess it require none. They are unshaken by noise and unmoved by insult. Their confidence is not performative. It is rooted in self-command. This command cannot be borrowed or displayed. It is built through countless small decisions to remain conscious when reaction is easier. When self-mastery becomes habitual, clarity replaces chaos. Decisions become deliberate. Movement becomes efficient. Speech becomes precise. The internal environment stabilizes, allowing focus to deepen and effort to align. You no longer waste energy fighting yourself. You become unified, directed, and grounded, carrying a quiet authority that is felt before it is understood. Finishing what you start is a rare discipline because it demands endurance beyond excitement. Most people begin with energy, driven by vision and emotion. At the start, effort feels light because motivation is high and expectation is strong. But motivation is temporary. It fades as soon as progress slows or difficulty increases. This is the point where identity is tested. Starting is easy because it feeds the ego. It creates the image of progress without requiring the cost. Finishing strips that illusion away. It forces confrontation with boredom, resistance, doubt, and fatigue. There is no novelty at the end, only responsibility, and responsibility is avoided by those who prefer potential over proof. When you fail to finish, you train the mind to associate discomfort with escape. Each abandoned task reinforces the belief that quitting is acceptable when things become difficult. Over time, this weakens resolve. The mind begins to look for exits as soon as resistance appears. This pattern becomes visible, not just in work but in relationships, commitments, and personal standards. Finishing does the opposite. It conditions the nervous system to remain steady under prolonged effort. It builds patience. It builds trust in your own word. Every completed task becomes evidence that you can endure beyond impulse. This evidence accumulates. It changes how you approach future challenges. You stop asking whether you can finish and start assuming that you will. There is a moment in every long effort where progress feels invisible. The mind questions the value of continuing. This moment is critical. Those who quit at this stage never discover how close they were to completion. Those who persist develop depth. Depth creates strength that cannot be rushed or replicated. Finishing also sharpens focus. When you commit to completion, you eliminate distractions that do not serve the objective. You become selective with time and energy. You stop scattering attention across multiple unfinished efforts. This concentration increases efficiency and clarity. One completed task carries more power than many abandoned ones. The world responds to finishes differently. Reliability becomes associated with your presence. When you commit, others believe you. When you speak, your words carry weight, not because you demand trust, but because you have demonstrated it through action. This reputation is built quietly, one completed effort at a time. Finishing refines character. It requires humility to continue when recognition fades. It requires discipline to maintain standards without supervision. It requires integrity to honor commitments even when no one is watching. These qualities cannot be performed. They are revealed only through completion. Each finished effort closes a mental loop. It frees cognitive space. It creates momentum rather than fatigue. The satisfaction is not emotional excitement, but internal alignment. You experience calm instead of restlessness. Because there is no unfinished weight pulling at the mind, over time finishing becomes part of identity. You no longer chase new beginnings for stimulation. You respect the process of completion. You understand that true confidence comes not from how many things you start, but from how many you see through to the end, regardless of difficulty, recognition, or delay. Calm under pressure is the final separator. When chaos appears, most minds scatter, breath shortens, vision narrows, decisions become reactive. Pressure exposes the internal state instantly. It reveals whether control has been trained or merely imagined. Those who have not prepared for pressure are consumed by it. Pressure amplifies everything. Weak discipline collapses. Unstable emotion erupts. Unclear thinking freezes. This is why pressure feels threatening. It removes masks. It strips away rehearsed confidence and leaves only what has been practiced repeatedly. Calm is not the absence of fear, but the ability to. In that space, options appear. While others react emotionally, they assess objectively. This difference changes outcomes. Calm allows strategy. Panic demands escape. One expands possibility, the other collapses it. Pressure also tests ego. Criticism, failure, and confrontation challenge self-image. The untrained ego reacts defensively. It seeks to protect identity through argument or withdrawal. Calm dissolves this need. When you are not threatened internally, external challenge loses power. You can receive feedback without offense and confrontation without escalation. Repeated exposure to controlled difficulty trains calm. Voluntary discomfort strengthens resilience. Cold, fatigue, intensity, and silence condition the mind to remain steady. When signals urge retreat, each exposure reduces sensitivity. Pressure becomes familiar instead of overwhelming. Familiarity creates confidence that does not depend on outcome. Calm presence influences others. Emotions are contagious. Panic spreads quickly. Stability does the same. When you remain composed, those around you slow down. Decisions improve. Communication becomes clearer. Leadership emerges naturally, not through command but through example. Under pressure, time feels distorted. Calm restores accurate perception. You see details others miss. You hear what is not being said. You choose responses instead of being driven by urgency. This clarity becomes an advantage that cannot be faked. The ability to remain calm also preserves energy. Emotional reactions are costly. They drain focus and create unnecessary conflict. Calm conserves strength for what matters. It allows sustained performance instead of short bursts followed by exhaustion. Over time, calm becomes part of your baseline. You are no longer shaken by noise, urgency, or intensity. You move through difficulty without haste. This steadiness, unstable environments capable of carrying responsibility without being consumed by it. Doing the work without seeking recognition is one of the most difficult disciplines to maintain because the human mind craves acknowledgement. Praise feels like proof. Attention feels like progress. Approval feels like security. From an early age, behavior is shaped by response. Perform well, receive reward. Fail, receive correction. Over time, this conditions the mind to associate value with visibility. When recognition is absent, effort feels pointless to the untrained mind. Most people lose momentum when no one is watching. They perform when observed and relax when unseen. This creates a split identity, one version for display, another for solitude. True strength is built in private. The unseen hours shape the visible result. When effort depends on recognition, discipline becomes fragile. When effort is internal, discipline becomes permanent. Working without recognition forces honesty. There is
no audience to impress, no reaction to manipulate, no praise to chase. Only the task remains. This strips the ego of its disguises. You confront whether you are willing to uphold standards purely because they are yours. This confrontation is uncomfortable, but it is essential. Internal validation builds self-trust. Each time you complete disciplined work without external reward, you reinforce the belief that your standards are not negotiable. You stop outsourcing motivation. You stop needing
permission to be consistent. This independence strengthens resolve. You no longer rise and fall with opinion, trend, or comparison. Silence sharpens intention. When you stop announcing plans, energy is preserved. Explanation drains focus. Declaration invites interference. Quiet effort allows full concentration. Progress accelerates because attention is no longer divided between execution and image management. You become less concerned with how things look and more concerned with how they are done. Those who seek recognition often rush results. They optimize for appearance instead of substance. Those who work in silence prioritize depth. Depth requires time. Time requires patience. Patience requires detachment from immediate reward. This detachment creates mastery that cannot be imitated because it is built through repetition without applause. Working without recognition also builds resilience. When validation is removed, excuses lose power. You cannot rely on encouragement to continue. You must rely on structure. Structure is more reliable than emotion. It allows consistency even when enthusiasm fades. Over time, this consistency reshapes identity from someone who tries to someone who completes. There is a quiet confidence that emerges from unseen effort. It is not loud or performative. It does not seek attention. It is grounded in evidence that does not need to be shared. This confidence changes posture, pace, and presence. Others sense it without understanding its source. When recognition finally appears, it no longer controls behavior. Praise does not inflate. Criticism does not destabilize. You remain centered because your reference point is internal. You know what you have done. You know what you are capable of. External opinion becomes information, not identity. Those who master silent effort are difficult to manipulate. They do not need constant feedback. They do not chase approval. They move steadily regardless of response. This independence creates